Hello again. Welcome to April, the month that has all the most important events in history. We've got my sister's birthday, April Fool's Day. Oh, the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since there's no place to go, I actually have to go to work later, and I will have to walk in this flurry. It's April! Guys, climate change can't be real. Look how cold it is. Look how extreme the weather is. So I'm trying something new for this video. I really wanted to do something where it's a little bit more dynamic. The last video, when I edited and sent it in, I realized it was a little less than personable. It was kind of like a robot video. And I'm not a robot, much like my favorite singer and the Diamonds. I'm not a robot. So I wanted to do it like this. I'm gonna film right after I finish each individual week's play, and I'm gonna try to do it in a different location that's like themed around the video. So I wanted to tell you about the very first play of April. I think it should be called Anger Play. Anger Play is very, very personal to me because it's kind of just a long rant. I didn't really feel my emotions when I was a kid growing up. It was a very difficult thing for me. I was trying to be as empathetic and sympathetic as possible with other people, but I really just didn't understand when they would cry or get really mad or have, all these terrible things happen and then like feel all that stress. I just didn't get it. Because for me, all of those feelings, they didn't really come to the surface. They were there, but they weren't something I recognized were happening. So crying, anger, joy, all of these things that are so awesome and amazing, I just didn't have them. I've been trying my best recently to feel things more, to feel joy when I'm successful, when I'm with my friends and we're actually having a lot of fun. I want to feel that. I want to be in that moment and I want to have those feelings. And I do want to cry. I'm an actor. It's kind of one of the things that everyone says actors need to do. But I actually had a mentor of mine, a very good actor, once said that, hey, it's on the day. If in a performance I'm supposed to cry and on that day I just can't, that's where I'm at on that day, and that's the performance I'm giving on that day. I think theater's really lovely in that sense. All of that to say, this play, this week, I wanted to write about anger. I have felt a lot of anger in my life. I was grown up as a man, and the repressing feelings that come with that were definitely very present in my life. I grew up around a lot of men who had a lot of issues with their anger. Violence was not uncommon in my life when I was a kid. I'm not saying violence towards me or violence in my family, but violence at school. What I wanted to talk about with this play was anger in my life right now. So back then, my anger used to come in forms that I wasn't recognizing and I wasn't aware of. And I'm doing better at recognizing and being aware of it now. And because of that, I kind of see where it shows up. And modern day, it shows up online. And it just contributes to this huge economy of whoever gets the most hate is also getting the most likes and the most comments and the most shares and blogs and everything. Or they're getting their comment put on other things, and suddenly your username is really well known for some reason on one site because everybody knows you as that guy who said that thing one time. Because the internet is kind of small. It's not as big as people think. It's definitely not as big as I thought. With all of those issues that are very common right now, Anger Play is about how they can fester. The character in the play is me. I wrote it about myself, is really struggling with this problem where they see all of these issues online. You know, there's this war over there. There's this genocide, very real genocide that's happening over there. There's all of these people in policy positions in the government, and those people aren't on your side. And then it becomes this endless fight. I have to fight for those people's rights. I have to fight for my voice to be heard over here. I have to fight for these people to listen to what I think is right over there. And now you're fighting this war on 18,000 fronts, and it's exhausting and it's surrounding. You feel like there's nothing else except this fight, except this business that you have to inject yourself into every single place. Because if you're not fighting, you're not evoking change. It's not really looking to solve these other problems, but it is just hoping to recontextualize the fact that anger all of the time is not going to help. In the end, it actually is going to probably take you out of all of these other things that you were focused on. And now, not only are you unable to help these other people, you've failed to help yourself. And they're never going to have you on the fight again. It's important to recover, to recuperate. You're saying fight, fight, fight. But if you don't give them time to recover, there's going to be nobody left to fight.
Play 14, Anger Play, is, I think it's a really special play. And if we look at the numbers, it makes sense why. So we've got 5 pages, 2,168 words. That's really impressive to me. Not because it's the most words I've written in this entire process so far. The most words I've actually written were just a little bit above that, 2,200 something, when I did Firewatch in the first month. Because I'm actually starting to write more about people that are close to home and more about me. I'm sort of learning how to take this process of writing and put it into my own life. For themes, self-service, social pressure, blame, these are things that are very prevalent in today's society, but people don't always think about how in your own life, what you blame on other people can also be attributed to yourself in some ways. And this play is more of a construction of my own anger and where it's focused and how it's maybe distracting myself from the real actual issues that I've got to deal with and other people have to deal with. Time writing, I know for a fact it only took 3 hours because I wrote this across the length of a shift. Do not tell my boss. For prep and planning, there's none. For potential, I put medium, not because I think it can't get very far, but because I really would need to spend some time deconstructing myself and my own anger. Comedy percentage, I put 30%. I don't think it's a very funny play because it is about somebody being really, really upset. And I don't know if you can always find the humor in that more than the drama, which is definitely 75% very important in this play. For a friend approval rating, I got trusted friend Hal. Hal called it well-paced and authentic. I did sort of cherry pick those words out of a larger sentence, but I'm sure they won't mind. For potential costumes, I think it's just modern casual. I think this is a very present day anger, and it's about what is currently causing it. And then my favorite line, have you been complacent? That shit sucks. It does. My favorite character is the friend. We have the main character and the friend. I like the friend. The friend is a little bit more easygoing. But of course, why wouldn't I like the friend more? The friend is not me. Overall rating, I gave it a 6. I don't think it's the worst. I do think it's pretty good. I don't think it's great. And I think it could go a lot further in its deconstruction. Thank you, me from the past. Now, me from the past. Take it away, Pestle Patty! Thanks, August. So this is me. I'm in the field. That was the extent to which I thought through this joke. We're at the end of week 2 of April, and I'm really excited to talk about an idea that I kind of developed and didn't really get any further with. But this is a play that I really think would be quite campy and fun and has a lot of energy. So, to tell you about this play a little bit, I kind of picture it more like a movie. In this movie, there are 2 plots. One plot is this wildly absurd, silly romp where you're chasing after a group of ransomers who are kidnapping all of the Canadian groundhogs. And then the other side of this plot is this really serious tone where you've got a mystery that comes from a lake in Nova Scotia. The play would balance these two different plots and sort of contrast the absurdity of kidnappers going after Canadian famous groundhogs like Shubenacadie Sam and Fred Le Marmotte. But I imagine the first act is all about this chase. The ransomers have kidnapped all of these groundhogs and they're sort of going through each province grabbing them. And the two main characters are reporters trying to figure out exactly what's going on, chasing after that story. And then when they return home, they find that a local lake, has been polluted to the point where every single fish in there has died. And it takes this dark, complete turn from silly romp to extremely serious story. I can imagine that in the first act you have the silly part, in the second act you have this serious lake, and then in the third act they converge into this weird kind of campy ending that I think would be really fun and kind of satirical in how it looks at these like darkly serious detective stories where they're like sitting at the edge of the lake pondering it and being like, death is everywhere. And then you look behind them and there's guys running off with this Quebecois groundhog. I don't know. I think that'd be pretty funny. It was, of course, a very ambitious idea, so I didn't get very far at all. I think I outlined the first act and all the scenes in it, and then I went, oops, I'm out of time. So it's an idea. That's what this week has made for me, an idea. Not anything more than that, but I don't need it to be anything more currently. So I just wanted to tell you that out in nature because it's April and it's nice. And I'm going to send it back to News Studio August in the future. Future August, take it away. Thank you very much. Now, in other news, we do have a huge busload of children that just flew off of the bridge, but I've got an important story that we need to cover instead. Let's look at the categories of what that play reached in its writing period. This week's play, which I've titled Now, A Bittersweet Taste. It's very short for very good reason. It's one page, 460 words, and I put themes of desire, reflection, opportunity, and I think I also wrote satire, but I don't know if I'd really call it satire. I didn't write any of it. For time writing, I put 3 hours because I did sort of spend a lot of time thinking about it and sitting at the computer, but if you can look between these two plays, this one took 3 hours and I wrote 2,000 words, and this one took 3 hours and I wrote 400 words, and they were all outlined. I didn't actually get into the play itself. I was very ambitious with my thoughts on this play, and the more I kept thinking about it, the less I was writing. So we can get into that trap a little bit, and I'll have to sort of watch out for that as I go along. For potential, I put low to medium, but I don't really think it's medium unless I actually sit down and write something. Comedy and drama percentage, I put them both at 50. I didn't write any of it, so it could go either way. For friend approval rating, I didn't get anyone to read it. I just got my friend Lux to look at the outline, and she said, it's a little perplexing. That makes sense. And it seems to be a comedy. You always want someone to read your stuff and go, that seems to be funny. So I like that a lot. Do I trust that opinion? Of course I do. Lux has been #1 for years now. For costumes, I thought it would be funny if both of our main characters were sort of decked out like reporters, where they've got like all of this gear and like khaki cargo, like vest and pants. So that was sort of the vibe I was thinking. My favorite line, not applicable. There's no lines in this one. And my favorite character is, of course, Fred Le Marmotte, which is a groundhog in Quebec. I love that guy. Overall rating, I gave it a 3. I don't know. I didn't do anything. What is there to rate? There's nothing there. I would have given it lower, but I do like the idea. And I always love when I get to mention my boy, Fred Le Marmotte. So I gave it a 3. That's end of the Bittersweet Taste categories. I'm going to throw it back to August in the field, who's got our next story. August? the fridge. A place where we like to put things up and say, this is something that happened to me in the past, or this is a drawing my child made, or you put something up that says, here's all the people in my family who I never get to see, but I have to remember what they look like and who they are and who they're related to. So I just put 18 different graduation photos up on my wall, specifically on this magnetic fridge. What an invention. The reason I'm giving you this part of the video here in front of the fridge is because this week's play was about memory and how it works and how we can focus on it in ways that are not really moving us forward. This week's play was about a family, two sisters, Jada and Cassidy. Here's the idea behind it. Layer 1 is the memory layer. In this layer, all you see are snippets of moments throughout the sisters' lives. We see them at a birthday party when they're young. We see Jada with her boyfriend Benny on the top of a mountain. We see Jada and Benny and Cassidy all smoking outside of a building. And in these moments, you sort of recognize that they're playing non-linearly, but there is a through line here, and you don't know what that through line is until we get to layer 2. I've broken up the layers each by act. So layer 1 is the memory layer. All we see is these random moments throughout their lives, cut up, sometimes muted at parts. Sometimes you can see that there's something there that you're missing that is getting skipped over by somebody or something. End of Act 1, that's the memory layer. Then we go to Act 2. Act 2 is the remembering layer. This one, we see the exact same events as Act 1 as memory layer, but now we're seeing Jada, a future, older Jada, looking back, choosing which memories to show, choosing which parts to listen to, choosing which things not to hear, choosing which things to skip. This is where we see that the actual manipulation of the memory layer is happening from this character. Jada is looking back and moving things around. And we learn her perspective, which is where we realize, oh, she's the one controlling all of this memory. And you learn why she's controlling these memories, why she's so fixated on the past, why she's fixated on her sister specifically. And then we get to Act 3. Act 3, outside of memory and remembering, is observation. Act 3 is a completely different group who are looking in on what Jada is doing with these memories. And they have their own opinions, they have their own thoughts, they have their own questions and remarks to make on what Jada's doing. You realize they've given her access to a technology that lets you look through the past, and they're studying her instead of her studying her memories. It's 3 layers of this looking in. And that's the idea behind the play. How does memory shape what the real events are? When you look back at your own memory, do you tend to get things wrong? Do you place yourself in a different position than actually you were in? Maybe there are some things you did back then that you're not proud of, and maybe you just forget that you did those things. And so the general idea of each scene and each memory is different than what actually happened. All of these are questions that I wanted to look at in this play. So thank you, refrigerator, frigo of memory, and I will send it back to August in the booth. Our third play of the month is I've called Rose-Colored Glasses for the Short-Sighted. This is an impressive thing. I'm gonna move the camera so you can all see just how impressive it is. Check this out. 11 pages, 3,048 words. That is a new word record. Word record, not world, word. Woo! I did particularly well this week. I put a lot of thought, I put a lot of time into this one. And it doesn't seem like a lot when you look at 11 pages, but that to me, huge. That's huge. So I'm gonna go through this one quickly now. For themes, I put memory, longing, grief. Amount of time writing, I put 10 hours, but I think I'm underballing that a little bit. Prep and planning, not applicable. I just wrote it. I kind of like jumped from the last one where I only prepped and I went, oh, I shouldn't do that. And I just went right into writing the next time. So that helped, I think. It's kind of nice to have one that's like a low energy week, because then it helps me jump into action for the next week. I'm noticing that, and that's helpful. I'm gonna think of that. Potential, high. Lots of great stuff here. We can really take this further. Comedy, 45. Drama, 55. I put it there because I put both in those in there. I wasn't really sure what direction I was going when I was writing. It could have leaned either way, but the natural way that I like to write is to blend and mix. For our friend approval rating, I've got my friend Tip. Thank you, Tip. Tip says, an intriguing story and an intriguing way to go about telling it. Thanks, Tip. Trust that? Yeah, I trust that. I don't know why I have this friend approval trustworthy rating. I'm realizing I always trust my friend's opinion. I don't know really why I put that in there. For potential costumes, it's kind of a couple different scenes throughout this character's life. So for one scene, like, they're very punk. For another scene, it's a funeral, so they need to be funeral attire. For another scene, they're very young, so it's kind of like just innocent kids wear. I think you can really have fun with this one. And my favorite line, this comes from the character Gabrielle. She says, I was strutting around the ring like a baboon showing off my big red ass, and Cass was cool as a cucumber. The complete opposite of a big red ass. I think I put baboon ass in the actual text, but I like the way I just said it better, so I might change it as soon as we're done here. My favorite character is Jada. The whole story is about Jada. It's one of those ones where it's if I didn't like her most, I probably wouldn't write it better. And for overall rating, I put this at an 8. It's another stellar performance. It's not a complete play, so it doesn't get those last 2 points, but I like it so far. That's it for that week, and we're gonna throw it to me with our last week. Are we gonna cut it to? I didn't film one? I didn't film one for this? Okay. So we have no one to cut to. Awesome. All right. Well, then I guess I will tell you about the last play. Play number 17 is called The Colossus of Pluto. In this play, it's a short monologue. You learn about a sculptor who created a colossus, a statue, and you learn about what they feel about the statue, why it was constructed, what it was based on, the Colossus of Rhodes from 280 BC. You also learn where it's standing now. It's in the middle of a metropolis. It's completely hidden from the outside world. And you also learn about the sculptor's relationship with the wonders of the world, specifically the 7 wonders of the world, which is a loose term that has changed vastly from when it was first said and to now. If you look on, like, say, the Wikipedia page for wonders of the current world, there's like 400 entries on there. But at the time of this, the original, I wouldn't call it an article, but the original Grecian work that said the 7 wonders of the world, there's so many more since then. So many more worthy of recognition, worthy of awe, that you just don't have. And this sculptor is really grappling with that question. They're asking, what happened to appreciation? They're asking, is art really impressive when it's standing next to something so much bigger and taller than it, when there's no artistry in a building, but there is artistry in a statue? Or maybe there is artistry in a building and the sculptor just doesn't understand that. It's a question. It's a questionated play. And I really like the way the monologue goes, and I like where it ends. It's sort of open-ended and up to interpretation. So it's really up to however you want to read it. Please go into the description and check it out if you want to. Now let's talk about the categories. Colossus Pluto, 2 pages, but 872 words. So just a short monologue comparatively, but actually most monologues, I don't know if you know monologues very well, most of them are about 1 page and pretty fast. Monologues are under a minute, almost always. This one would probably take a few. For themes, wonder, perspective, vision. It's all about how we see the world, what we see as impressive, and what brings feelings of wonder into us. Hours writing, I put 4 hours into this. Same as this first one. I know how long it took because this was, again, over the course of a certain period of time. For outline, I actually did a lot of research on this. I took classes in university on history, specifically the early modern period. And I also took some classes on like more ancient history. And so I kind of knew about some of this stuff already. And I did a lot more research into the wonders of the world and how they evolved over time and what was considered a wonder and what wasn't. And that's sort of where I got the idea for this one. So I did do some prep in planning. Potential, I put medium. I think it could go a lot further, but it's you know, still pretty small. It's a rough draft. 20% comedy, 25% drama. I put it like that because I think it's saying something else. I don't really think it's fitting into either category. It's got its own thing that it's doing here. And I don't really want to count it as either one. But I think if we actually were to look at it, it would be more of a dramatic style monologue. It's not so much about the funny, it's a little bit more about the serious. Friend approval rating, we have Lux once again this week, who says it's beautiful. And she wrote, like the first monologue in a show about artistry. So I like that she already can tell it needs more. So I like that that's sort of something she outlined there. But I also agree that it is very nice. It's very beautiful. For costumes, I put a few things here because I do think this is taking place in the future. So I put new age or counterculture, natural cyberpunk. These all don't really mean anything when you get down to it. I'm using them here to say it should be a more of a futuristic look, but it should still be, this character is true to naturalism. This character is true to the ancient world. They're not going to conform to a future society's hyper dress. They're probably gonna tone it down and go back for more of a classicism kind of thing. Favorite line here is, "No, honey, don't be sad. She won't be gone for long. We always come back." It's kind of one of the last lines. I think it's an important one, and it sort of encapsulates what I like about this piece and where I could see it getting more improvement. For favorite character, there's only one character, the sculptor, and whoever they're talking to. So you know, I could pick between those two, but I only know this one, so I'm gonna pick this one. And for an overall rating, I put it at a 7. I think it's really good, and the reason I think it's really good is because... All right, well, thank you for watching this video. I appreciate taking the time to watch it. I also appreciate you coming back after that last video was absolutely horrendous. I'm really not proud of that one. I'm gonna try very hard to improve my video making from now on. Gotta take some time to sort of learn the ropes, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I think I'm doing a good job when I actually am trying. And I'm gonna try really hard to not try. That made perfect sense. You understand, right? So I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you so much for joining me once again on this journey of self-reflection where I'm trying to figure out what's my process, how do I work, and how can I refine it into something that's sustainable and continuous. And I think I'm doing a decent job at that, and I appreciate anybody who takes the time to follow me when I'm doing that.